The vote you're most proud of in Congress was your vote in favor of the Civil Rights Act. But it wasn't a popular vote here in your district.
It was a very unpopular vote.
It was used against you when you stood for your first re-election. Your opponent used that vote against you. You found out that your opponent had printed literature, two different pieces of literature, one aimed at the black community that praised John Dingell for this vote, the white community that criticized John Dingell for this vote, and one aimed at the black community that said all sorts of lies about your motivation for the vote and what have you. And you responded by sending your crews out early in the morning to collect the literature from the two different communities and switch them. So by the time election day come, both groups were mad as hell at your opponent.
Well, we saw that the literature was switched. Mm-hmm. And when it was switched, it more truthfully reflected the vote. Mm-hmm. And it helped us to carry the vote. And the people, God love them, of the downrivers, they stood and said, you know, this is the right way to do. We are one country, and that is what we are going to be.
And you have served Dearborn and the downriver area and parts of Detroit your whole career. It's a region that's very, very precious to you.
That's true. And I'm very, very proud of it. And I'm very, very proud of these wonderful people.
Now, John, over the course of the next 60 years, there were a number of monumentous votes for you and pieces of legislation that you crafted. I'm thinking of the Clean Water Act, the Clean Air Act, the Endangered Species Act. People might find some contradiction in the fact that you were such a staunch environmentalist, but also a ardent defender of industry, particularly the auto industry. How do you reconcile those two pieces of your career?
Well, President Bush said, and I think it's true, that putting the bills together is what makes legislation that works, that saves the country. And if you do that, you will save the country, and the wars will end at the water's edge. Mm-hmm. That's a very powerful statement, and it does something that is important in terms of saving peace throughout the world for all time.
Throughout the book, you tell stories about working with Republicans, some whom you liked and admired, some whom you didn't. You put a lot of that environmental legislation together with Richard Nixon, who certainly was not one of your close friends, but throughout your career, you were able to work across the aisle and build alliances with Republicans to get things done for the country.
Well, you work with God or the devil to get things to go forward, to be better for this country and for the people who live here.